they can get a good match out of me, but it's those extra things that have elevated me. I've always had a passion for Japanese-style wrestling, and I thought if I can't do WWE, that's where I'll go.
Did you think you'd be back in WWE?
I had a lot of faith that I would end up back in WWE. I didn't think it would be so soon.
6 Tsunamis was crazy.
By the 5th one, they're chanting for more. There's like bloodlust amongst the crowd.
The stuff you've been doing with Braun Strowman.
I was excited to be able to work with Braun. I think there was natural chemistry there.
You threw a human being.
He had a Yeet shirt on. You're sponsored by these guys.
Yeah, so you can drink that. I mean, actually, let me know what you think.
Okay,
I think that that's the best flavor for sure, I think. Strawberry lemonade.
That is good.
Yeah. I'm sure you're somewhat of an energy drink connoisseur.
Yeah, anything with a lot of caffeine is good.
Anybody working the hours that you guys work?
Oh, yeah.
You're, yeah.
That and just like early mornings in the airports and stuff like that. So.
Right, it's super short nights.
Yeah, yeah. And then I get home and then I have a baby at home, so then it's that as well. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
I haven't seen you since you became a dad.
No.
How's that going?
It's good. We're very lucky. She sleeps through the night. She's almost 7 months old now.
Yeah,
since she was 5 months old, she slept.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 7 at night until about 6:30 in the morning. So
wow,
can't complain.
It was like a year for us till.
That's what everyone says. Yeah, everyone says that first year is super hard. I get it, but it's fun as well.
Also, the first night that they sleep through the night, you're like, is everything okay?
Yeah,
what the heck? Like you'll randomly wake up at like 4 in the morning, you check the monitor, and you're like, wait a second.
I've done that a bunch of times. Yeah. Have them under there and be like, wait.
Okay, oh, they're moving. Okay, good. Everything's good.
Yeah.
But congrats. I know it was an interesting journey for you guys.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
But congratulations on becoming a dad.
I appreciate that. It's definitely changed my life and for the better, I think. So.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how your whole perception of everything changes when you're responsible for this little human being?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I guess your purpose in life changes a little bit. You know, I sort of, not that I was going through life without a purpose, but it's just everything now is about her. So yeah, it's good. I like it.
Did you think you'd be in this position now where you're back in WWE?
I did. You know, I had a lot of faith that when I was released that I would end up back in WWE. I didn't think it'd be so soon. So when I got released, I remember Drew McIntyre messaging me and talking about his experience. And he said it took almost 7 years before he got re-signed. Like he did a lot, obviously, in the UK scene and stuff like that. I was planning maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe I could get a good run in Japan for a couple of years and then be back in WWE. But then it ended up being 16 or 17 months I was gone. Obviously, things changed. Hunter was sort of back in charge again, and I was always a Hunter guy in NXT, and he reached out to me and ended up back.
Was the goal after you got released, like, I'm going to do whatever I can to find my way back to WWE?
Basically, yeah. Like, I've always had a big passion for Japanese-style wrestling. When I started wrestling, I trained in the Inoki style of wrestling. The guy that trained me actually trained under Inoki. So I always had a big passion for that. And I thought, well, if I can't do WWE, that's where I'll go. And then I ended up fitting really well. And then I had a decision to make whether to stay in Japan and continue to pursue that or come back to WWE. And I think for me, I've been a lifelong fan of WWE. I didn't get to do things like be on a Monday Night Raw or be on SmackDown or be able to call them. Drawing to bring me back to the ones I needed to get.
What do you think of the scene time out? Because you're being presented in a very different way now.
Yes, yeah. I think Hunter always saw it. Obviously, I think the other higher-ups saw it for whatever reason. Obviously, I was babyface at the time. I've always said I work better as a heel. And I tried to push for that in NXT and it didn't happen. They wanted to keep me as babyface, which is fine. Now that I'm back, I've been able to be a heel, but I sort of still was on the back burner for the first year or so. Like I'm one of those guys that is almost like a match guy, I guess you can say. You can throw me in there with a cruiserweight, someone like a Ricochet, and I have like a great match, or I can go in there with someone like Bronson and have a good match. They always know that they can get a good match out of me, but it's those extra things that I think have elevated me in the last 3 months or so, which is, you know, attacking people and all the backstage stuff and just some viral moments, which I've always wanted to do.
I mean, there's been some incredible viral moments.
Yes.
I think we'll begin with the 6 Tsunamis was crazy.
Yes, yeah.
Was it supposed to be 6?
No. No. I think it was supposed to be significantly less, and then the way that it turned out, like with Hunter's vision, is it just was more and more and more, and it was one of those things where you listen to the audience, and you can just feel a change in the audience as I was doing it. You know, I hit the first 2, they're sort of booing. It looks like that's it. And then I go for the 3rd one. People sort of like, what the hell's going on here? Then I go for the 4th one. They can't comprehend what's happening. And by the 5th one, they're chanting for more. There's like bloodlust amongst the crowd for someone that they love as well. They love Seth Rollins. And I was glad that it actually ended up working where after the 6th one, I left and they still started chanting like his, you know, singing his music that he comes out to. So
but also worked. But also chanting one more time.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, as much as they love someone like Seth Rollins or any of the, you know, the top guys that are super over, I guess that move now has its own lore, the Tsunami. And I always tell people if you get to see it live, it's different to seeing it on TV.
Sure.
It's very impactful. So I guess to have 6 in a row, which I've never done.
But even seeing you in person, I think, you know, you look big on TV, obviously.
Yes.
But then you see you in person, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you understand it a bit differently. Yeah.
I could not imagine laying on the canvas and all of this coming hurtling at me.
No, yeah. I've had many a wrestler say to me, it's one of the scariest moments I've had in wrestling, laying there and seeing me like fly 10 feet in the air. But, you know.
When you went out to the ring for that segment, was it finalized at that moment? This is going to be 6?
No.
So
no,
at what point are you saying to Seth, stay down, we got another one coming?
During the, you know, as it's happening. So it's one of those things like, yeah, you know, he has to be willing to be able to be there and I have to be willing to be able to do more, but it definitely worked out and made for such a great moment in television. I think, you know, I had so much buzz around that, and then people online as well saying I haven't seen something like that in WWE for so long, where you can take someone and just propel them in one night with just one segment, not a match, nothing else, just brutality.
The commentary put it over the top.
Yes, yeah. Michael Cole is very good at what he does.
Man.
yeah.
Somebody call the National Guard.
Yeah, that's right. That was a Pat McAfee line, right?
I think that was Cole, right?
That was Cole. Okay.
Pat McAfee was.
He had some good stuff as well.
McAfee was, we need a tranquilizer.
That's right. Yeah. So obviously in the moment, like I was like, okay, this is working out. Like just from the reaction of the crowd, and then once I went back and watched it, I realized what a sort of like a pivotal moment it was for what I'm doing at the moment, and seeing the reaction of Cole and McAfee definitely put it over even more.
There's very few people that have a defining moment in their career.
Yes.
There's really only a handful that you can think of off the top of your head.
Yeah.
That's your defining moment.
I think so for sure. You know, I spoke with Hunter like right afterwards, and he said like that's a moment that will last forever. Like they can replay that as much as possible. For me, I like to. I'm not going to say it's nowhere near as good because it's, you know, he's one of the best ever, but it's like Stone Cold at King of the Ring doing the 316 line, like that promo. You instantly remember it, and you instantly remember a switch in his character and where he went from then. And I'm hoping that people remember the 6 Tsunamis as something similar.
I think that if we take it back just a little bit before that, when you got called Big Bronson Reed,
yes,
there was a real shift that happened there too.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. So they were looking for a moniker for me, and obviously I used Colossal in NXT, which was a Hunter idea. And for some reason, they didn't want to go with that when I returned. I pitched a bunch of things, so many different things, and then the most obvious, just the word big is what they went with, and that was actually a Vince McMahon call. So that was one of his last things I think he sort of had to deal with myself before he, they changed and Hunter was in full control. And then I heard maybe it would change, but it just stuck.
WWE loves alliteration.
Yeah.
Big Bronson. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But I think giving you that moniker, it states the obvious, right? Like anybody can look at you and go, that's a big dude.
Yeah.
But when it's being reinforced every single time you come out there, I think it did something for your character.
Yeah, I think so. I think people can always relate. Like, again, even though it is a little obvious, people can relate to it. They go, okay, that's the big guy.
Sure.
And I started realizing, traveling in airports, and I get recognized in Florida a lot, like going to Target or wherever I go to, people see me, and people used to say, like, some people say Bronson, or some people are like, oh, you're the guy from TV, but now a lot of people be like, oh, it's Big Bronson Reed. Like, they always say big. So I'm like, it obviously works. It sticks in people's minds. So
if you saw my interview with Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, they said that planking was one of the biggest reasons that they're in the best shape of their life at 50 years old. And they designed a product that makes it comfortable, functional, and fun, and it's called Pure Plank. I've been doing this every day, and I can tell you Pure Plank is the real deal. And the best part about it is you can start planking with just 3 minutes a day. Pure Plank's signature soft rubber padding ensures that planks are comfortable no matter how long you hold them, and their handles guide you in the perfect plank position every single time with optimal body alignment. Look, the problem with planking is it's boring and it's uncomfortable. And Pure Plank has solved both of those with the mat and the handles. And let me tell you, when you grab onto those handles and you start to shake a little bit in your core.
first, when I was in NXT, and then when I first returned to WWE, I was still in coach, and then I had to do some contract negotiations. So I'm like, I don't fit in one of those seats. Yeah, that's legitimately the thing. I'm like, I don't fit like I need first class travel, which I have now, thank God.
Have you ever sat in the middle seat?
A few times back in my independent wrestling days. So when I was working for PWG here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, way to call them out.
I think people know. It was a great breeding ground for wrestling, for sure, but the budget was, stuff
Sure,
like
it's indie wrestling.
Yeah, and to have like independent company fly me all the way from Australia to LA, like, it's a lot of money, but there was a few times I was stuck in the middle, and I was like, oh my God, this is
It's like a 12-hour flight.
Yeah, 14-hour flight.
Oh.
Yeah, awful, but I got through it. It was all worth it in the end.
If I'm already sitting on a plane, so you're talking, the window person, the middle person, and you're walking down the middle of the plane,
That's awful.
please, no, not in my row. That's what everybody's thinking.
I used to with NXT, would travel a lot with like Southwest, and obviously you want to get the A group so you get in first. But there was a few times where I didn't get it, and I'd tell people that are in the row, like, please let me sit on the aisle or the window because it's going to be a bad experience for all three of us. Yeah. If I sit in the middle.
Look at the size of my shoulders, okay?
Yeah, there was a few times as well. I don't know if it was a rib, but in NXT, me and Keith Lee got booked next to each other. Yeah, there was one flight that was Keith Lee, me, and Dan Mather, and it was just like this for like 2 hours.
Like they have to rebalance the plane.
Yeah. I was like, surely this has to be a rib. I don't know.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're flying in a much more comfortable seat now.
Much more now. Yes, it's great. Like, actually, not that I look forward to travel because I feel like in this business you get used to going on planes. But at least I'm comfortable now. I can just put on my headphones and chill. And first class is much better. I don't know if I can go back to flying coach.
Well, I mean, you get both armrests this way.
Yeah. This way I'm chilling. I can recline more. I get food. It's great.
Yeah. The stuff you've been doing with Braun Strowman's been, it's viral. You've had so many moments.
Yep.
Do you go into them going, if we hit this right, people are going to talk about this?
No, I don't think I didn't. I was excited to be able to work with Braun. I think there was a natural chemistry there. Like, we had maybe touched one time before in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal last year. And I was like, oh, we could do something there with me and him. But then it's like, what do you do? And then Hunter obviously had great vision for things, came up with like the car angle and everything. And then once we were filming that, it's in the moment, I was like, okay, this is going to be cool. I think people are going to really like respond to this. And then it ended up being WWE's most viral moment for the week. I think it got almost 13 million views across social media platforms. So it worked.
But you can't practice that.
No, you can't. It's one of those things like the car's there and it's like, if we practice it, we're going to destroy the car. So it just has to be, and that's also was all one live take as well. Some people thought that maybe we stopped, recorded that earlier in the day or something, and then, did the rest live. And I was like, no, that's all one continuous thing. Everything me and Braun's done has been live.
Man.
Yeah.
Do you, like when you're up there and you're about to jump onto the car, you're about to do the tsunami on the car, you thinking about your knees?
Sometimes, yeah. I always wear knee pads. But I've sort of, I think from doing it for so long, like even in Independence, I used to do a frog splash. I stopped doing that because I injured myself once. Then I went to the normal style sort of splash, but I think my knees are so like conditioned now that it's okay.
Like, that's one thing to do it in the ring. It's another thing to do it
on a car. Yeah. It's one of those moments where like I climbed up onto the wall and I did it earlier in the day just to see how high it was. And I was like, it'll be fine. And in the moment, obviously, like it's live television, so you just have to go for it.
There's a moment before you climb up there, before you do the tsunami in the car, where he throws you across the hood of the car.
Oh, yeah.
And you land hard on the asphalt.
Yeah.
And nobody's talking about this.
No one except everyone backstage. When I got backstage was talking about that. Hunter thought I broke my neck or like cracked my skull open. They were hoping that I was fine. It was just happenstance. So he checked me across the car. Obviously, I didn't think about I was going to be all sweaty. And that thing, I don't know if they buffed the car earlier, but I just slid straight off. And luckily, from years and years of wrestling, I've always been taught to tuck my chin. And as soon as I felt myself going, I tucked my chin as much as possible, and I sort of just landed across my traps. Again, luckily I had big traps and stuff like that. For like someone else, that could have been very bad for them.
I mean, when you watch it back in slow motion, it's like, that actually seems legitimately scarier than the car spot.
But it's the same as right before that, I get choke slammed onto the other car. And because for some reason, it didn't make like a big sound or anything. Yeah. That hurt much worse than anything else in that segment. Like, I got picked up and thrown onto a car, and I don't think anyone appreciates it.
What's crazy is that a choke slam onto a car has been a big spot in other matches.
It's true, yeah.
And here it was just like, oh, that's just the thing that happens before this.
Yeah, it's getting to that point now where we're doing some crazy stuff where it's like, what do we do now to try and one up that? Like, it's
and how do you? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's trying to be inventive and still stay within the realms of being, nothing too crazy. I think things still need to be safe, but it's hard to come up with new stuff.
Do you remember an oh my god moment when you were growing up watching?
Yeah, I think for most people like my generation, I grew up, through the 90s. It was Foley getting thrown off the cage, like off the Hell in a Cell. Like I remember that distinctively seeing it, being like, what the hell? Like I'd never seen anything like that in my life. And then afterwards, him getting up and coming back and doing the rest of the match. Like I remember seeing that, and it sort of, I guess Mick Foley was a bad influence on me because I remember being 13 and jumping off the roof of my house, like onto mattresses and stuff because of Mick Foley, trying to copy him. So it's not the first time I've jumped off of things.
This is you, and this is your surprising hunch.
I'd take the over.
The kind of hunch.
I'm getting chokeslammed through when he wasn't supposed to fall through. It's like, oh, I cringe when I watch it.
I still now, like, I've watched that hundreds of times, and every time I watch it, I'm like, has to be the worst bump anyone's ever taken.
And the chair falling in his face. The thing about the first throw is like, there's no build up to it. There's no tease of like, I might throw him, maybe not. I might throw him, maybe not. Just out of nowhere, it's like,
see you later. Yeah. Which I sort of love that because
the crowd,
not that the crowd wasn't into the match, but it happens. Pay-per-view, a lot of stuff has happened. They sort of Undertaker and Foley are up there. The crowd's a bit murmuring, and then out of nowhere, he gets thrown, and it's like, completely obviously engages the crowd.
And it also opens it up to, if that's possible, what else could happen?
Yeah.
If they're willing to do that, what else could we see?
I know, yeah. And I feel like sometimes those moments stand in time where it's like, I don't know if you can top that.
Right.
It's just
and plenty of people have been thrown off Hell in a Cell since, or there's been big Hell in a Cell moments, but
it's not the same.
It's not the same.
Yeah. I think that was the feeling, and just the way he was thrown and how badly his body hit that table, the impact. Like, obviously he's a bigger guy as well.
Yeah.
Like, close to 300 there. Like, so those things obviously, I always tell people as well with me and Braun, the reason that works so well is because we are so big as well. Like, if there was any two other people doing that sort of stuff, it wouldn't work the same.
I mean, you're big dudes.
Yeah,
That's
Braun,
600 plus pounds.
I've never worked with anyone as big as Braun. Like, he's definitely like a giant. Like, he's 6'7", he's 365 pounds. Like, for me to feel the impact of someone that's bigger than me is usually weird because I'm the big guy in there. So,
yeah.
So it's definitely been a learning curve as well with that.
Do you work any differently when there's someone bigger than you in the ring?
Yeah, I think so. I think pacing is a little different. It's two big guys. We can't be running around doing stuff like that. Obviously, everything that we endure, every punch from someone that big is different to a punch from someone smaller. And I think that's a problem. I'm not calling anyone out, but in our business now, a lot of people will sell things the same for every single person. So they would wrestle someone. I can't even think of an example, but someone Akira Tozawa, who's great. But I'm not going to sell for Akira Tozawa the same way I sell for Braun Strowman. But there are people in our business now because they're so used to just doing whatever routine.
That's just the way they sell.
Yeah, that's how they sell. And it's like, no, you need to change your, like, every match should be different.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to burn some extra calories or sweat out some toxins from a particularly you can burn up to 6 cost of a sauna and an infrared sleeping bag. It heats up in boncharge.com.
Yeah, he had a Yeet shirt on, so that's where it comes from.
But what a spot.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect that one to be as viral as it is. Like, that actually got the most views out of everything from that most recent match we did. I thought maybe going through the wall would be more viral, but it was hit the fan getting thrown. I think because people just aren't expecting it again.
Yeah.
Like, where he's doing his train thing, and then out of nowhere, you just see some guy coming to screen. So
It's totally unexpected in that moment.
Yeah.
And obviously people understand how spots like that work.
Yep.
But I think then there's some people who are sitting front row going, could that happen to me?
Yeah.
Could I become a human lawn dart in the next match?
I had a lot of people say that. You know what I mean? A lot of people like, he just grabs a fan and throw him in. Like, the thing is, I've done similar things on Independence where it was a fan. It was
an actual fan.
Yeah, but those crowds are a little bit more wild and into the show. So, but yeah, it definitely made for a great moment.
So did you meet that guy earlier in the day and go, okay, so here's how it's going to work. I'm going to grab you like this.
For the first time, yeah, but it was sort of like, just be ready. I'm going to throw you.
Like, I got you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay.
Like, he was maybe like maybe 180 pounds or something.
It's like my size.
Yeah, I was like, I can throw you. It's okay. Just stay open. I grab him by the belt and then see you later.
Just launched it.
Yeah.
So what else do you have up your sleeve?
That's the thing. So I still do have a lot of things up my sleeve. There's still things that like I did on the Independence that I haven't done in WWE. Like I've done the tsunami off the top of a ladder before. There's still that. There's still some dives that I haven't done. So there's still that. But then there's also, depending where me and Braun Strowman goes, I assume it's getting more and more violent. So it has to be a hardcore match or something like that. So I'm most recently, so I'd never done any sort of like hardcore match in WWE, but on Independence I did a bunch. Like growing up in Australian wrestling, it was sort of a staple in my home state. So I got to do it with the Miz. You got to see a little bit of that, but there's a lot more that I could do with like weaponry.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, anything can happen. Yeah.
The way Wade Barrett sells the tsunami it's just perfect.
Perfect. And since he's been back, he hasn't been able to say it. I haven't hit it since he's been back. So
good
I'm
point.
waiting. Yeah, he's patiently waiting. Like the last 2 weeks, he's like, tsunami, and I'm like, no, yeah, soon enough.
Did he tell you he was going to say it like that?
No, so I obviously, like, I told him what the finisher was back in NXT, and he's like, I'm going to think of like a way to say it, and then he just instinctively just went with my motion, I guess, and it's perfect. Like, his voice, everything, and everyone wants him to say it. Like, there's nothing against, like, Michael Cole, great, everyone's great.
Everybody loves Michael Cole, come on.
Yeah, but everyone wants Wade to say it, so.
Yeah. I mean, he punctuates it.
Yeah, something about his voice and the way he does it, it's just perfect.
There's also something about the way that you do the tsunami. I think everybody's seen the both feet on the top rope, perching yourself up, getting your balance, and then jumping. There's something, I don't know, maybe it's almost ominous about the way you climb it like a ladder.
Yes.
And then you climb and jump off as you're climbing.
Yeah, so I used to do the tsunami 2 feet up on the top rope in NXT, jump and do it, and then when I was going to New Japan, I was watching a lot of like old Vader matches, a lot of Bam Bam Bigelow, and I noticed Bam Bam Bigelow used to step 1 foot and dive to do his headbutt. I was like, oh, that's different. And I think anything that's different in this business, even if it's something small like that, stands out. So I'm like, so I was like, I'm going to try it. And I tried it for the first time in Japan. It worked. And I was like, this is going to be how I do it from now on.
Yeah.
Because it is different. And now, luckily, because people are getting more receptive to the move, they know as soon as I get to the apron, I can feel the crowd starting to come up like with every step. So
yeah,
it's definitely like that. I'm trying to get the lore around that move where it's like, you just know tsunami, you know the Stone Cold Stunner, you know these things. Hopefully people will correlate the splash with tsunami.
I think
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of other people doing splashes in WWE at the moment.
It doesn't look like that.
But it's different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a totally different approach to it.
It's true. Yeah.
What do you think of these comparisons to some of the iconic big men in wrestling?
I mean, I'm always flattered. Like I do watch a lot of those guys. Like I said, Vader, Bam Bam. Even more modern stuff. Like I grew up, my teenage years were sort of shaped by like a Samoa Joe, which is like he's a big man, but he's a little bit more athletic. I think that's sort of where I went down that road a little bit more.
Yeah, when he was in the X division, people went, "Oh, he's a big man, but he can move like that."
Oh yeah. He's a freak of nature for sure. So
definitely.
So yeah, he definitely helped shape my like early indie career. And then as I got to WWE, I sort of went more towards like a Vader or a Bam Bam.
Yeah, a lot of comparisons to Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah, I mean, I did the Bam Bam Bigelow gear in NXT. I did the flames and stuff. So, and I still wear flames now, but that's about to change. I'm changing it to waves for the tsunami. So we get to see that soon.
Okay.
The gear's coming soon. So
I've also heard comparisons to Mark Henry's Hall of Pain.
Yes.
Like what you're doing right now and just the anger that's behind it. Yeah. It reminds people of what he was doing with the Hall of Pain gimmick.
I love that as well. Like I was a big fan of Mark Henry and what he did. So if I can I want to keep it that way as well. Where like everything I do has a sort of violent nature behind it that's a little bit more distinctive or a little bit more aggressive than the other heels on the show.
Yeah.
And he's been someone like with what I was doing, he reached out to me and like just spoke to me about like how he did it and stuff like that. He's again another great mind for wrestling. But I think me doing what I'm doing sort of excited a lot of the older big men in the business to where, Mark Henry said there hasn't been someone like big men that can move and do the things that you do in a long time that they would actually get behind. So hopefully it stays that track and I keep going like this.
Yeah. Also this being a natural disaster, the tsunami, there's the comparisons to earthquake.
There is, yeah. And I like that as well. Like, I said you could have earthquake, typhoon, tsunami. And I said eventually those will be landslide.
Otis landslide.
Yeah. I said if all else fails, me and Dozer can be the natural disasters 2.0.
Have you guys wrestled?
We have, yeah. We had a few matches last year. Again, I think because it was sort of just in the mid card, it was just a couple of matches, and they're all really fun. And then we did a bunch of live show loops against each other. But I think now, given the change in my character and his as well, it'd be way more over because he's more over as babyface and I'm more over as a heel. So that might be something we could revisit.
What's the trajectory you see with where your character's going?
I said like I think I said it in a video when I was walking backstage, and I'm always sort of talking shit when I'm walking around the ring. Like sometimes I gotta watch myself as well because I'm Australian and I swear a lot. So Hunter has told me a few times like, hey, just remember this camera's on you at all times. I'm like, okay. But I said to a camera like, I'm a top guy now. That was after I did the 6 tsunamis to Seth, and that's what I want for Bronson. I want him to be involved in that main event scene, the World Heavyweight Championship scene. I know like Gunther is the champion, so maybe that makes it a little bit more difficult. But I think there's a lot of like top names that I haven't worked with yet that are big baby faces. Obviously, whenever Seth is cleared and to come back, there's a story there with me and Seth. I'd like to work with the CM Punk, Rey Mysterio, and even John Cena when he's back. So I think I'll be perfect. I'm the perfect John Cena heel. You know, the matches he had with like Umaga and those guys, like I'll be perfect against him.
Oh my gosh, that could be great.
Yeah. But whether that happens, I don't know. Like that's all just stuff I'd like to do.
Yeah.
It's up to WWE.
It feels like you could be inserted into the Intercontinental picture immediately.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was an opportunity there, and you know, you had to take some time off. But I feel like that just feels like it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would like to see Bronson versus Braun. I think that's a cool match as well. Like we've never touched at all, never wrestled at all. But like again, if people compare me to the Vaders and stuff of the past, obviously they compare him to his uncle and his dad. Seeing Vader and Bam Bam versus Steiners in Japan was incredible. You do a modern version of that, it'd be pretty wild.
Did you think at the start of the year that any of this was possible?
I mean, I was hoping for this when I first debuted, if I have to be honest, and that's nothing against the way I came back to WWE. I came back and I helped The Miz win his match. I think he was feuding with Dexter at the time. But I feel like what I did with Seth was how I should have debuted.
Yeah, there was something, and I mean this with great respect, there was something that was underwhelming about your return.
Yeah, I think it was sort of, this happens at times, like, obviously I've been rehired, they want to use me, they don't really know what to do with me, so they sort of just rush something and put you in something, so you're at least on TV. They can start to establish you and stuff, but I'm like, I think the best way to do things is just to make them impactful. I did something similar to what I did with Seth with TNA when I went there. Impact Wrestling, I attacked Josh Alexander on my first night. I only gave him 3 tsunamis.
Just 3.
but it was enough to be like, oh my God, this guy's an instant threat against one of the main guys here in TNA. Like, what's he going to do? And I think that's sort of what I should have done in my debut at WWE, but that's out of my control. So,
but on the other hand, it was right onto the main roster.
Yes.
You could have gone back to NXT.
That's true.
That could have been your return, but it was right onto the main roster. You're in there with future Hall of Famer in The Miz and
Exactly,
aligned with him. There's a lot of pros there, but I just think that people expect returns to be the big, oh my God, this person's here.
Yeah, and that's what I think it could have been that, but yeah, it just didn't work out that way. And yeah, that's nothing against the people I worked with. Like I said, The Miz is incredible. I've learned stuff from him in the last couple of years, especially with promos. I've been able to do some promos with him, and he's like a master at that stuff.
Andre the Giant Battle Royal and winning that.
Yeah.
Is there a plan after you win that? Because it hasn't been mentioned since.
No, I feel like people sort of, and hopefully not people within our company, but people sort of not disrespect the trophy, but like it's sort of just like a throwaway match. And I wanted to win it and make sure that it wasn't that. I was hoping that I could do more with the trophy, but it just didn't. Like I'd won it and then I didn't see it the next week. I don't know what they did with it. So, but I said like I wanted to carry it around for a couple of months and make it like a thing.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. But I said like Andre the Giant's such a pivotal figure in wrestling. Like he became bigger than wrestling. You know, you could go to Australia where I'm from and mention Andre the Giant in the 80s and people know who he was. Like he was a worldwide name. So I feel like they need to sort of make that more of a thing than what it is.
What did that moment at WrestleMania mean for you?
I mean, it still felt great. Yeah. Like because I am such a big fan of Andre the Giant and just wrestling in general.
And it's WrestleMania.
Yeah. It felt really cool to be able to do it. And it's just another little accolade I can put on my resume that, you know, I won that trophy. So yeah, it was great.
But to be considered like, a lot of people are in that match and they're saying you're going to be the guy. Like, you're going to be the winner of this. That means they see something in you.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm not sure if many people remember, but the year before, I was in the same match, but I came down to the final 2 with me and Bobby Lashley, and he got me out. So it sort of felt like a good redemption arc to get back the next year and win it.
What's going on in wrestling with all the Australians? Well, you guys are taking over.
I know, yeah. And I feel like hopefully there's going to be more to come and take over and do great things as well. I've been telling people for years, like, you know, once I started wrestling around the world a little bit more and getting to see the other like independent scenes, I started saying to people like our Australian wrestling scene could beat the American wrestling scene, it could beat the UK scene. It's just that people don't know about it. But the like per capita, the talent we have is ridiculous. And it's still like that now. Like back home, there's so many people that I could put over and be like they could be working for WWE or somewhere else. But yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping, we take over even more.
What makes you think it's even possible as a kid growing up in Australia? Because there's no one to look up to. Right?
No.
There's no one who had been there and done it. Whereas, like, for example, I grew up in Canada. If I want to be a pro wrestler, oh, Chris Jericho did it, Edge, Christian, Val Venus, Tess, the list goes on and on and on, Bret Hart, Owen Hart. For you, how do you even think it's possible?
I did it. so I mean, as a kid, it was my dream. You know, I tell people back then, I'd be in the WWF or WCW, I didn't know what was going to happen. But, you know, it's sort of just like a dream that people sort of like, would go, oh yeah, cool, but like no one believes
So, like, what are you really going to do?
Yeah. And then when I was a teenager and I said, like, I want to pursue this pro wrestling thing, my goal was to get to Japan because I knew that there was an avenue to get to Japan and it was more realistic than WWE. And still, there was no representation of Australians in WWE when I started wrestling. And then I think Tennille got signed, Emma, and then I started to think, oh, wait, maybe there is a way of getting in here. And then they started doing tryouts and stuff, and I was like, okay, I need to change my perception of WWE and start focusing on trying to get into WWE. But yeah, I never believed it was a thing until I was actually wrestling and I saw others do it.
Because it was Tennille, and then it was the Iconics and Buddy Murphy.
But, yeah.
Yeah, and now it's you and Grayson Waller and Rhea. I mean, and many more to come, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so. And I feel like now that we do have that representation, like I did some media with Australian television and radio just 2 days ago. So now that we have representation, hopefully this kid's growing up, they go, oh, I can do this. And then they do pursue it wrestling in like, 20 years time, there's even more Australians in wrestling.
Do you have a special bond with Rhea Ripley?
I do, yeah, because we're from the like same city as well. So like obviously I get along with all the Australians, I mean Grayson as well, but growing up in the city we grew up in, it's sort of like, how can I explain it? It's almost the Florida of Australia. Like people sort of crap on it a little bit and be like, oh, not that place. Like, and like it's the smallest city out of all the major cities. So I think we sort of get, not picked on a bunch, but people are like, oh, you're not going to do anything coming
Florida's
from
kind of like the island of misfit toys.
Yeah, 100%. That's Adelaide as well.
I lived there for 5 years, and I've told the story many times, but when I first moved there, someone told me it's a sunny place for shady people.
That's pretty good.
And I'm like, that's very accurate. Yeah. It's like all the misfits from like New York and Boston, Chicago, all the East Coast just kind of funnel into Florida.
I feel like I follow like a few Instagram pages that are like only in Florida.
Oh, only in Dade makes me crack up so much.
Yeah.
Because I lived there.
Oh, there you go.
Dade County.
Yeah, Dade City. We used to wrestle there for NXT and it was awful. The crowd was always awful. They're like zombies. They just wouldn't do anything. And I'm like,
Florida Man's a real thing.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen the thing where you type in Florida Man and then your birthday and you see what the headline is for your day?
no, but I want to do that.
Oh, let's do it right now.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah.
All the world's information.
Perfect.
So what is it?
August 25th,
Oh, this is going to be great.
1988.
So we'll just go Florida Man, August 25th. And
I'm sure there's a lot of
okay.
What's the first headline?
Florida man sprays woman with roach spray, breaks out nunchucks
That's awesome.
over over loud music. Okay,
That's awesome.
Let's see what's.
He didn't like what she was playing and broke out the nunchucks.
Florida man attacks woman with hammer and pours acid on her.
Jesus. Maybe that's a bit too extreme. That one. The
No,
nunchucks and the roach spray.
that's very
fair
Florida.
enough.
That's very Florida.
You can find someone with nunchucks, but too much.
So because you guys are both from Adelaide, there's just a special bond there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think. So I tell people the story all the time, but she used to actually come to the independent shows when I was wrestling. As an independent wrestler, she was a fan. And then I remember that she started training, and I was like, "Oh, this girl's gonna be famous." Like I could tell straight away. Like just there was something about her. I was like, if she signs to WWE, she'll be off and running, and it happened. Yeah.
She found something that she's dialed right into.
Yes.
So when you look at her when she debuted in NXT, looking at her now, they look like two very different people.
Yeah, and I think the Rhea you see now was always in the Rhea before, but I think when she signed to WWE, and this happens as well, is that you feel like you have to not change yourself, but you have to be a certain way. And I think she thought that as well, like she had to be the certain look for women's wrestling, and that's what's going to work. And I think she just got more comfortable in being herself, and that's sort of what's become more popular.
And it's working.
Yeah, 100%.
And same for you. It's leaning into like what is truly and authentically you.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that's what we've really been seeing over the last, call it 3 to 6 months from you.
Yeah, even things like little things like for the longest time, like I wear band shirts all the time because I'm into music. My whole life I just listen to music. And the last few walk-ins I've had like a Gangsta shirt and then something else, and people online are like, "Oh, this is cool." I'm like, it's always good if you get to show people those little bits of your personality. Because for the longest time, WWE were like, "Oh, just wear like plain black or plain shirts. We don't want to see anything." And I'm like, I'm gonna just start doing. I'm gonna start being me more. And even the aesthetic with like Godzilla, like my entrance is like Godzilla. I'm a huge Godzilla fan my whole life. I tried to push that in NXT, and we got a little bit of it. And then when I returned, I said to Hunter, like, we're gonna do something with like me and Godzilla, like the entrance, like I've been wanting to do for so long, and I'm glad they went with it. And I think you're gonna see some of those Godzilla things come into play with me and Braun as well. Film some cool stuff recently.
I think there's something when you can showcase even just a little bit of your personality that endears you to fans.
Yeah, and I think it shows. I would hope that most pro wrestlers are creative people. Not everyone. I've met some wrestlers that are really dull, but you should be able to show your creativity as well as like the creative of the WWE side and make it a collaboration. That's the best.
But it's little things like someone is going to look at the wide shot of this interview and go, he's wearing Jordan 3s.
Yes.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I wear Jordan 3s.
Yeah.
And I actually often do wear Jordan 3s.
Yeah.
Wearing ones today.
And I feel like I've always been a big sneakerhead again my whole life, and now it's become a culture in pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Like everyone, like even if you don't particularly like sneakers, I see people in Jordan 1s and I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And I said it backstage to a few guys and they're like, oh, I just got them because I think that's what you have to do now. I'm like, yeah, sure. And like it was like the Zubaz back in the days with the boys and like
Yeah,
that sort
yeah.
of look. But I love it. And like I grew up sort of no money, poor. So like I always wanted shoes like this, and now that I can afford it, I have a little bit of an unhealthy collection. Yeah.
How many do you have?
At the moment, I gotta say I got like at least 150 pairs.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's too much. Yeah.
How do you decide
I
which
tried to like I would like donate shoes to Goodwill and stuff like that rather than trying to sell them.
Imagine going to Goodwill and seeing these.
I know, yeah. I try to do that. It's a nice thing to do.
You
But
should start signing them and just giving them to fans.
That's a good idea.
That'd
Yeah.
be, I mean,
I'm
Goodwill's
done
great. That's a fantastic donation. But if you signed one of these, or both of them, and gave them to fans,
I think the thing I run through the most is like I have my beater shoes, and that used to be Air Force Ones, and like once they're a little bit too dirty, it's like
Yeah,
I
now then they're
can't
done.
wear them. So maybe that's what I need to start doing is signing my dirty Air Force Ones.
People would love those.
Give it to people. Yeah.
They-
Now I wear the Dunk Low Pandas all the time. They're like my go-to beater shoe.
I can't believe how many wrestlers are wrestling in Jordans.
And there's that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Roman Reigns has a deal with Jordan. Like that's my all-time goal with sneakers is to get the Dunk Low Tsunamis. Yeah.
Those are the most. The threes are the
The
most.
threes.
I wear threes. I'd say like 25% of the time. I like the look of the fours the most.
I agree. I think the fours look better, but the threes are more comfortable.
I think because I didn't grow up skateboarding, but I love skate shoes because they're so comfortable.
Yes.
And the chunkiness of the Jordan 4s really appeals to me.
Yeah.
So that's why I have half a dozen Jordan 4s, I think.
Yeah. And they did that release. Who did the recent release where they did the skate Jordan 4?
Oh, yeah.
Was it Eric Costin maybe?
I don't know. I
I
want to
grew
get
up
those.
liking skate shoes as well. The big chunky globes and Osiris's and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like them. Yeah.
But threes you could stay in all day. They're so comfortable. There's something about that, just showcasing a little bit of like, if someone who's a fan of Joy Division is going to look at this and go, what?
Yeah,
No
it's-
way. It's that scene in Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So big thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this episode and for always supporting the channel. I don't use the internet anywhere without NordVPN. I mean, you've got a lot. This deal they have going on right now.
It's true, yeah. I mean, I'm a big hip-hop head, but I do listen to a lot of like British new wave sort of music, like Joy Division, The Cure, The Smiths.
You're winning over more fans.
Yeah.
Every band you list here.
Hopefully, yeah. But I can go on with like metal and stuff like that. I sort of listen
You might
to
as well start listing some metal bands.
Yeah.
Get the metalheads over here.
I think we already have the metalheads in wrestling. We're gonna start appealing to these other.
Name just one.
We're gonna start. I mean, Hatebreed maybe.
Yeah, there you
is one
go.
of
All the
them,
Hatebreed fans like
yeah,
those.
they're a good band I like to put on when I'm like doing heavy deadlift or something like that. Like that gets me fired up. Whereas this is more for like the plain music.
Yeah. I'll list off like a deep cut in a podcast episode. Someone's like, no way. You love The Dangerous Summer? Hell yeah, I love The Dangerous Summer. And then like there's just something about that. Like
Sure.
you know about a band that nobody else has heard of?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I feel like I grew up like that. I used to like, especially with hip hop, I used to try and find like all these underground like hip hop artists, and then I'd find someone that knows about them. It's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
you know this? Yeah.
Have you heard their EP?
Yeah.
Let me introduce you to this.
That culture sort of lost a little bit now because now you can just go on Spotify and find everything.
Yes.
Most things.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was growing up, like I used to have to go to like certain record stores and stuff to find like an underground section, or then it became like mixtapes online. I go to like
Yes.
fatpiff.com and
And then torrents and
Torrents, yeah.
and
I was a
Napster.
big illegal streamer.
Of course, we all were.
Yeah.
It's also I feel like now it's have you seen them live? Oh
Yeah.
man.
That is true. That is I have a bucket list of a lot of bands and artists I want to see live. There's too many.
What's cool is you find out some of these bands are wrestling fans.
Yes.
And then there's like this immediate like chemistry there.
Yeah, I listen to like pop punk music as well, and I've had a few like bands like on Instagram. Like I'll use like songs for certain posts, and then I find out they're following me, and it's like, oh, and they send me merch and stuff. It's great.
Pop punk's like that's real near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I was a big Blink-182 guy, and with them, like,
Of course.
obviously, getting back together, I went and saw them live, which was a bucket list thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, pop punk and like pro wrestling works really well.
I know. I saw Hot Mulligan comment on someone's post.
Me.
Yes.
They sent me out some merch and stuff. Yeah.
And then I saw they were following me and I was like, oh, what?
Yeah. Hey, maybe I'll send you out a t-shirt.
Would you guys, please?
Yeah.
Hot Mulligan. I don't know if I followed them back.
Yeah, you gotta
Do
follow
it
them back.
immediately after this. I did a Mount Rushmore pop punk music recently.
Okay.
And I feel like there were a lot of people that were like, oh man, you're one of my people now.
Who was your man?
Well, Blink-182 I think is on everybody's pop punk.
Of course.
Yeah. If they're not on yours, you're just a liar.
Yeah.
New
People act like they're not a fan of them, but it's like you have to be.
You have to be. And they laid the groundwork for everything that came after that. So them for sure. Enema of the State was like the soundtrack to like 1999, 2000 for me. Newfound Glory was also a really big one, and their self-titled album. And then from there, it's like, all right, well then how do you, where do you go from here? Sum 41 meant a lot to me.
Yep.
They grew up in Ajax, Ontario. I'm from Pickering. They're from 10 minutes from me.
Okay.
So that was like a band that I like is from like right there.
That's always great.
And they made it. And then Fat Lip was what a riff.
I feel like that when that came out and just the film clip and everything, like instantly, like made a fan of me. Yeah.
And then it's always tough to do the fourth spot. For me, it's Hawthorne Heights because they introduced me to like, do I like Screamo? I don't know. Yeah. Oh, I do when they do it.
Yeah.
And Ohio's for Lovers meant so much for me when I was in college. I ended up living in Ohio a handful of years later, so there was just a real like melding of the two worlds there. So that's my four.
It's hard.
Dare I ask you what yours are?
No. I mean,
I'll be here all day.
Yeah, the hard thing, whenever anyone, like people ask me this with wrestling all the time, like, who are you like, Mount Rushmore wrestling? It's like, it's so hard. Yeah. I'm so influenced by so many people. The same with music, same with, I watch a lot of like movies and film as well. And people are like, what's your favorite movie? And I'm like, I can give you like a list of 30.
You don't have one favorite movie?
I don't know. Like I always go back and forth on like what my favorite movie is. And depending on it, like, I always say like Jaws is one of my all-time favorites, just because it has everything. But then like, depending on the day, like Blues Brothers might be my favorite movie, or
classic,
or more recently, like A Drive is like, that's in my like top 10 for sure. So it's hard. I don't know. It changes all the time. I feel like I do that with wrestling as well. There was one moment in my wrestling career where my top 4 would be all Japanese wrestlers. And then as I went on wrestling, it changed. And now it's probably even more sporadic, my Mount Rushmore wrestling.
Who stays on there all the time, no matter what?
My top 2 of all time, Kenta Kobashi from Japan and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay.
They're always on there. And then the other 2 sort of fluctuate, but usually a third is Dusty Rhodes. I just was a huge fan of Dusty Rhodes, and just I feel like he could do everything. Wrestle, promo, everything. And also was another big guy that people don't realize, like he was 300 pounds and he was moving around in there like.
But when you talk about art, whether it's music or movies or pro wrestling, I love how subjective it is.
It is, yeah.
Your favorite match could be something I wouldn't even think about, and vice versa.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and you might like someone for completely other reasons than I might like them. And that's what's so beautiful about it.
Yeah, I agree.
Like my favorite movie of all time is Back to the Future.
It's a great movie.
A great movie. There's some people like, no, it's fine. I'm like, I want to fight you.
It's more than fine.
But I appreciate the subjectivity of it because you will see the beauty in something that I may not. And I think that there's something really special about that.
That's why I always tell people, again, like I said, I feel like it has to go off how you feel in that moment. That's the great thing about wrestling. Obviously, it brings everyone together. Like I look out into the crowd and there's so many different types of people. But say you're feeling sad, you might connect with something that day, you know, music-wise, different to what you're feeling if you're angry or happy. And I feel like that's the same with movies. It's the same with wrestling as well.
How do you not let it get to you when you're going out there doing your best work and some fans may not relate to it? They may not like you.
I mean, I get a lot of that. like I feel like online maybe it's like 50-50. But I don't mind. I feel like you know, I heard a quote once like, you're not successful unless you have haters. And I'm like, makes sense. You know, people talk about me whether they like me or they hate me. You look at someone polarizing like a John Cena or Roman Reigns, I'm like, as long as more and more people are talking about me, that's all that matters.
And what's that other quote? It's like, nobody doing more than you will ever try to tear you down.
That's true.
And it's so true.
Yeah,
you know,
that's very true.
John Cena's not going to come up to you in the locker room and be like, hey man, this sucked or whatever. You know?
That's very true.
They're always trying to build you up, right? There's that other quote. It's like, there's 2 ways to have the tallest building in town. You can either tear down all the other buildings or you can just build a better building.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that there's a lot of people, especially online when they're nameless and faceless, they're trying to tear other people down because maybe they're not happy with where they're at in their own life.
100%. I say that all the time. I'm like, I obviously don't mind, again, wrestling's subjective. If you don't like the way I wrestle or whatever, that's cool. Like say whatever you want. But then there's people online. I've said it multiple times. I think it's like a disgusting thing to do. But like people that are like, I wish you'd get released or I wish you didn't have a job. And that's about other people as well. I've seen it with so many people. I'm like, you're wishing for someone not to be able to make money for their family. Like that's a little too much. Like no one's going to say that about whatever job you have, like, and be like, I wish you didn't have that job.
Yeah, could you imagine walking into someone's office building?
Yeah. And be
like, I hope you get fired.
Yeah, it's insane to me.
It is.
But again, a lot of these accounts that say this stuff will be like 1 post, 0 followers. Yeah. And like they do it just to like, it's a lot of like trolls and stuff. So it's like,
and their username has like 14 different numbers after it.
Yeah.
Like,
and I've never once had a fan approach me not being nice.
Yeah.
So,
but if you're a heel and people online don't like you, doesn't that kind of mean you're doing your job?
Exactly. And I can tell the difference of like a troll and someone who doesn't like me because I'm doing my heel work, right? So I like getting to see that difference. So, and it's fine. Like I said, you can love me or hate me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. What is this tattoo on your left arm mean?
So I had this, so from here to here, I had done when I was younger.
Your forearm?
Yeah. I had that done maybe when I was like 23, 24, which I'm half Samoan, but it's more traditional like Hawaiian, this tattoo. So it represents shark teeth and the like black going away is supposed to take the darkness out of your heart sort of thing. And then I actually went to Samoan Mike, who does Romans and Jey Uso's tattoos and had from here to here done. And this is almost like a warrior shield. So it's a lot of like traditional Samoan stuff and like folklore, like there's shark gods and then I have like a centipede god here. It's a lot of stuff in one tattoo. But for me, like I think Jay maybe said something similar and he's got even more on him. Like I have a lot of tattoos, but I only have this part that's like traditional Samoan tatau. It's sort of just like body armor, sort of like that. Yeah, and I'm gonna definitely get more.
With your Samoan roots, if you go way back here, generations, is there any tie-in to any of the famous Samoan families?
I don't think so. There's a lot of my, I mean,
if you did,
I'd have to do like
if you did like myheritage.com.
Yeah, maybe I'd have to do that and see. So like my Samoan side, I don't have a huge connection with. I grew up mainly with my Australian side of my family. So I'd have to do something like that and see. So many people ask me like, oh, you like cousins to like the Usos or the Rock? And I'm like, I wish. I probably would have been in the business quicker. Yeah.
I'm sure you're somewhere related.
It could be. I mean,
seventh cousins or something.
Yeah. The good thing about like all those boys is there is that like, you know, like again, it's a cultural thing in Samoan. Like you're just friends instantly. Like,
sure.
Like I get along with all those guys, like the Usos. So even when I met the Rock, he was just super cool. I'm like, okay, so which is good. Yeah, it's a good thing.
Isn't this tattoo similar-ish to Aquaman's?
It is. Yeah, very similar. He has a similar one. I think maybe he has a little less, but yeah, same meaning. I think because he grew up, you know, partly in Hawaii.
I actually met the Aquaman character, but like
no, Jason Momoa. Yeah. And I think he recently got some more of like the. I think he got it on his head recently. So I might have to steal that look as well.
A head tattoo.
yeah. I like it. I like the head tattoo. I don't know. I'd have to probably get that okay by everybody.
Probably.
I mean, a lot of my tattoos I didn't. I just went and did, and they're like, oh, you have more.
They probably didn't notice till like months later.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a second.
The good thing I remember Batista saying in the interview is like every time I got a new tattoo, it just meant I got a new action figure. I was like, that's pretty good.
That's I've heard that from a lot of people.
Yeah,
like Chris Jericho changes facial hair so often.
There you go.
That's why Dustin Rhodes was doing so many different colors with his face paint.
Yeah, it helps. Like I think I have another figure coming out soon, but it's like so far it's been all my different like entrance gear. You know, that's a big thing with figures. So
do you have a favorite figure?
Probably the first one I had, which was it's me in the Bam Bam style gear.
Has there ever been a better time for women's hoops?
Do you have a favorite figure?
Probably the first one I had, which was it's me in the Bam Bam style gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty classic look.
Yeah, it's a cool figure. Yeah.
I'm just so glad we were able to connect on this.
Me too.
Thank you for making the time to do
Yeah,
this.
and I think last time was obviously via Zoom.
And your name was Jonah.
Yeah, Jonah. It's different to do it in person. It's always
so much better. We're doing all of these in person now.
Okay,
Because there's nothing like shaking somebody's hand, give them a hug, looking them in the eyes.
Yeah.
There's also that weird, even as good as Zoom is now, there's something about like, you were saying something?
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Whether that's like headphones or whatever lag or whatever, it's different to do in person.
But I knew you guys would be out on the West Coast at some point this year. And when I saw that was announced, I'm like, dude, we gotta make this happen. So thank you for waking up early to do this.
No, thank you for having me.
Early call time on the West Coast.
Yeah. I mean, it's good because it means I get the red eye and get to get home earlier. Yeah, which my wife appreciates. So
you'll be home tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
early.
Yeah, I think I'll be home like 7 a.m. So
what's next? What's next for Bronson Reed?
I feel like what's next for me is the main event scene. I'm going to push as much to be, whether that's on Raw, whether that's on PLEs, I'm going to try my best to stay within that main event scene. And I'm working with, the people I'm working with backstage, Hunter. I work a lot with Paul Heyman. I think I'm getting to that point.
Paul Heyman must be just bestowing so much knowledge.
He's been, I tell people like all the time, like the biggest influences on my career were my trainer, Harley Jackson from Australia, then probably Hunter. But now, in the most recent, since maybe the start of the year, I usually sit down and speak with Heyman every week at Raw. And he's just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to wrestling.
Amazing. Is there one particular thing Paul Heyman's taught you that's really elevated you?
I think it's just how to present myself in the ring. Like I've always wrestled a certain way for the big man, but there's even more I can do with my size and to make myself look different. He's always looking for something that's different. That and just his promo work is ridiculous. I'll go to him about a promo and he'll just cut a promo off of his head and it's like the best promo I've ever heard.
And you're like, could you say that again, but slower?
Yeah. He's just a genius with words. So
amazing.
Yeah.
All right, I'll wrap this up with the question I asked everybody at the end of the interview. Gratitude's so important to me. Mm-hmm. So what for you are 3 things you're grateful for as we sit here right now?
I think number one, obviously since we spoke last time, is I now have a daughter. Yeah. So number one is 100% her has changed my life. If I'm not on the road, all my time is with her and my wife. So 100% grateful for my daughter Deja. Number 2 would probably be my wife. She went through a lot to get her in the world, and we got there and we have that. And then number 3 is probably the wrestling fans. I wouldn't be anywhere without the fans. Like I said, whether you like me or hate me, you're helping me out. So keep talking about me.
Man, thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me.